Freeman, Georgia for over 20 years now. I know I look too young for that, but it's great to see the way it's grown. Driving around, seeing lacrosse goals in people's yards, lacrosse stickers. That used to be such a big deal whenever we saw any sort of sign of lacrosse on a car out in public, and we didn't know the person. Because we used to, if we saw a lacrosse sticker, we knew who that was back when I first started here in Atlanta. So it's really great to see how much the game has grown and all these programs. You know, and if I see a name of a program I don't recognize, that's awesome to me, because that means it's growing, it's getting bigger. So I just think that's fantastic. First, start off just a little background about our program. Some of you may not know exactly how the MCLA or the club college lacrosse leagues work. Cut you off at the pass, the first question. Georgia Tech has no plans to go varsity in men's lacrosse anytime soon, so don't worry about asking. It's not going to happen. All right. We're very happy with where we are. The MCLA is a club league that we play in. The term we like to use is sort of virtual varsity, because to us, club has a little bit of a keg on the sideline connotation, and that's not what we are. That's not what our league is. You know, we travel to play at Colorado in the regular season. We're traveling to California this year. We've flown to play up at Boston College. We try to give our guys as close to that varsity experience as we can. Obviously, some things are a little different. That's just sort of the nature of the beast. But again, we try to be as organized and as close to that varsity experience as we can. We want to give our guys the best college lacrosse experience that we can, and that's what we do. We've been fairly successful the last few years. We've made the national tournament the last 4 years, 2 of those years making it to the semifinals before losing a couple nail biters against Chapman, a school out in Los Angeles. It's been in the last 4 national championships games, so it's been a good run the last few years. And then I have coached the offense and the goalies for most of my time here at Tech. I'm not sure what just happened to the computer. But like I said, I've coached the goalies. We've had a handful of All-America goalies, All-Conference goalies, been very successful over the years. So what I want to talk about for this portion of our presentation is goalie play. Just give you guys a few things to have in your toolbox to look at when you're coaching, when you're dealing with your goalies, things to watch for, things to coach. You know, we could probably go from 9 to 4 today, all on goalie play if we really wanted to and get really into the nitty-gritty, but none of that is going to go home with you guys. All right, I want to give you guys all a few things that you can hold on to and that you'll remember and that you can use when you're coaching your goalie. All right, as Lou mentioned about the mouthpiece coach in his presentation, if you don't have anybody that coaches goalies or knows anything about it, give him these few things. Your mouthpiece coach can be your goalie coach. He can do that. Gives him one thing to watch. He's not yelling at his son to go cream the guy coming on the field. Gives him one easy thing to watch and follow, and it works. Okay? All right, so start here. Again, my name is EJ Freeman. That's my email address. If you have any questions about this, you think about it later, shoot me an email. I'll be happy to have a conversation with you, let you know what I was thinking. So now, somebody asked earlier, how do you find a goalie? All right? Somebody said, and I cringed when I heard it, somebody said, have them run a lap, and the last kid on the lap should be your goalie. I think that is the worst idea in the world. If it were me, the kid who finishes the lap first is going to be my goalie. I want the most athletic kid that is willing to play goalie. I want him in the goal. All right? I want that guy to be a very good athlete in the cage. Okay? And willing is the second word that's very important there. Because if you take your most athletic kid but he has no interest in being a goalie, he's not going to be a very good goalie. He's not going to make that work for you. So take those kids who are willing, and your most athletic player of those, that's who I would go with. Because that's the kid who's going to move the best, that's the kid who's going to react the quickest, and probably hold on to the most in terms of the mechanics that we're going to try and teach him. In terms of protection, I agree with Lou. For a long time, you know, I would rag on the kids that I saw with shin guards or thigh pads or whatever it may be. Let them wear whatever they need to feel comfortable. All right? Let them wear whatever they need to feel comfortable. Being comfortable in the cage, that is one of the most important things. Goalie is, a lot of it's physical, and we're going to talk mostly about physical. A huge part of playing goalie is between the ears. It's that mental state. You have to be in a little different mindset to want to be a lacrosse goalie. All right? It's just a strange desire. okay? So that kid needs to be comfortable in there, so let him be comfortable. Another thing, you want to engage your goalies. A lot of times, I'll see this in practices, and sometimes I have to fight it in our practices. We'll get that goalie warmed up, that's done, I'm moving over here. I may not mention anything to the goalie again that practice. That goalie got a warm up and that was it. That's not really a great way to coach a lacrosse player. Would you do that with an attackman? Have them take 5 shots at the beginning of practice, coach that, and then not say a word to him the rest of practice? No, none of you would. So we shouldn't do that to the goalie either. All right? So the goalie we need to engage the goalie. And like I said, the more you engage the goalie, the more fun he's going to have. All right? Especially if he's having a rough day, letting in a lot of shots, or maybe your midfielder is an attackman, can't shoot that day, and they keep plugging him in the chest. That's not a fun day, especially if your coach isn't really talking to you and engaging with you. You've got to engage that goalie as you go. Let him know when he makes a great save. And then, if he doesn't do something quite right or lets in a soft goal, that's the time to maybe let that slide a little bit because he knows, okay? But really work on building him up, build up that confidence. And like I said, part of that confidence is going to come through consistency. I'll disagree with what somebody said. I can't remember who it was. They had him do some sort of shooting drill he was in the cage for, and that's his warm-up. I want your goalies to have the same warm-up every day. Because if I know I've got that warm-up and that's consistent, I know what that's going to be every day, that gets me ready to go. It's like my morning routine before I go to work. I shave, well not me, you guys do, all right? But I have my coffee, have my breakfast, whatever it is, now I'm ready to face the day. It's the same thing for a goalie going into practice. Let him have that same structure for the first 5 or 10 minutes to get ready to play goalie, get in the cage. There are plenty of things you can do without a goalie while he's getting warmed up and getting ready to go. And again, you build that confidence. Confidence is so important for a goalie. I thought of this just the other day, but a goalie, confidence is so important to a goalie, and also a short memory. In your headspace, you kind of have to be like a defensive back in football. Who are the most arrogant guys typically on a football team? If you watch the games, the guys talking the most trash, the guys who are the most confident in themselves, generally those defensive backs. And they have to have that same short memory. You might have just beat me for 40 yards, or you might have just beaten me for a goal, but you're not doing it again. I'm going to save the next one. Their confidence doesn't get affected by that. That's the same kind of mindset your goalie has to have. So, now we've picked our goalie. So we've got to figure out, how do we teach it? What's this goalie going to do? What is this going to look like? All right, and again, this is our philosophy. This is how we do it. There are certainly other ways, other philosophies on it, but we've had success with this. It's a pretty good basic system. So start out with the stance. We want feet about shoulder width apart. Okay, that's a good athletic position. If you're a little wider, a little more narrow, that's okay. But if I'm really narrow in here, if I have to get to the side really quickly, I'm going to fall over. Okay, I'm not real athletic. Or I'm going to have to take another step to get in an athletic position, right? We don't want to waste any motion. So we want to be ready to go, shoulder width apart, nice little knee bend, okay? Start there with the feet. Talk about our hands. I'm not going to talk a ton about hands today because the way we teach goalies, hands are a luxury. You don't need them, all right? It's all about your feet. Goalie for us is about feet. It's all about how you step to the ball, how you get to the ball. We do tons of drills with our hands behind our back with no stick. That ball should hit me in the chest if I'm stepping right. Now, with our hands, we do want them in our stance. I'm a lefty, so I generally will stand that way. We want our hands out and up away from our body. Okay, I don't want to be in here because now if I do have to get my hands over here, I've got to move around my face or I've got to move around my body. Okay, we want to be out and up, but not locked out here. We want to have a nice bend in our elbows so we're relaxed and ready to move. Okay, this bottom hand, which would be my right hand, we want that sort of at our stomach, almost at our belly button, which is going to force the top hand off of my face. I'll see a lot of young goalies sort of stand like this with the hand in front of their face a little bit. How well can I see right now? There's something blocking me from seeing the ball. I can still see it, but not as well as I could if I'm out here. Okay? So get that hand off their face. We want their hands out and up. I don't mind a little gap between the head of the stick and the helmet, because if they beat me there, good shot. Okay? But I want to be quicker to the corners. Okay? So I want to be out here off my body this way. I'll give him something to shoot at right here. I believe I should make that save. Okay? So again, I want those hands out and up, and the stick off the face. Okay? So now, positioning. All right, this is important. But this is something that I think there's a little bit of leeway in, because sometimes you've got to move a little bit if there's a lot of traffic right in front of the cage. Or like in the old days, if people are screening the goalie, you've got to sort of figure out how to get around that and see, right? So there's a little bit of wiggle room here, but we teach a 5-step arc. We don't teach the really deep arc right on the cage or right on the goal line extended. That's not what we like to do. We talk more about sort of a middle arc. We don't want to be out at the top of the crease either. We want to be sort of in that soft spot, maybe a step to a step and a half in front of the goal line. Okay, so not right on it, not way out on the edge of the crease. Like if anybody watched the World Games this summer, the Canadian goalie was making saves outside the crease. That's not how we teach it. You're going to be in the crease making your saves. Okay? The other big thing we talk about a lot, and this is on essentially alley dodges, we talk about a delay step. So what that is doing for us, so if you imagine I'm at the top of I'm facing the top center right now, as that guy carries down either side, let's say he's carrying down this side here, if I just follow on my arc, if he were to shoot, that ball is going across my face a little bit. We want to make sure that shot is always coming directly at us. Okay, the way we talk about it and explain it, both in camp to youth players and in college to our guys, is think about that ball. For us, that ball is going 85, 90 miles an hour, somewhere in there, right? So if you think about a car on the highway, if it's going across your face at that speed, how much can you really tell me about that car? Not a ton. You can tell me the color, maybe if it's a big car, small car, maybe the model. But if it's driving right at you at that speed, you can tell me a whole lot about it. You can tell me the make, model, you can probably tell me how many people might be in that car. All right, so you can see it a lot better, if that makes sense. Right, so it's coming right at us as opposed to across our face. So that delay step, I'm just changing the angle as opposed to a big step over, so now that shot's coming across my face. I'm here, he starts, okay, now I'm right-handed, I guess. All right, so he's going this way. It's just, basically, I'm just turning myself. So the toe of my left foot is going to go to the heel, to where the heel was, and the same thing is essentially going to happen with my right foot, and now that shot's coming right at me. And also, the way it looks to the shooter, I've taken away the whole back pipe. So now the angle, all he has to shoot at is right here. If I know he's shooting to one half of the cage, it's a lot simpler for me to get there, right? It's much simpler. I don't have to worry about him shooting to this side because it's just going to hit me. Okay? So that's what we mean by the delay step and the angles. Again, that's something that's important, but it's not as important as the next part we're going to get into, in my opinion.
Hey, EJ.
Yeah.
Is your delay step different if the backside pipe is off stick or on stick?
Not really. You can do it. What I would say is that the next part after the delay step, if I'm right-handed and he's going this way, I might take the next step a touch earlier if I'm right-handed than left-handed. But it's not a big deal because I know he's still shooting here. And again, the stick is of lesser importance than the feet. So I can still get right here and make that save, and I'm good. Okay? Or I can just squat right here and it doesn't matter. Anything else on that one? So now this is the part where I'm probably going to spend the most time, and this is the part I harp on the most with our goalies, is how we're stepping and moving to the ball. This is crucial to me. Okay? And this is where I think you can get the most accomplished with your goalies, with a few coaching points, and really make those guys stand out. And when we're watching recruiting film, that's what I'm watching, is how they move to the ball. How they throw their outlet passes and clearing passes, that part, it's important, but I can teach that. We can figure that out. We can figure out positioning. If I don't like where he's playing, low arc, high arc, whatever it may be, we can work on that. But how he steps to the ball, and a couple of these issues, especially the no-nos, if he does that a lot, that's going to take a lot of reps and a lot of time to coach out of him. Okay? So this is the part. If I'm you guys and I'm focusing on one slide of this presentation, this is the one. Okay? So again, we teach the step. as a 3-stage process. Talk about it all the time. Pop, explode, recover. The pop is just the initial step as soon as I see where that ball is going. Okay, and again, or not again, but as soon as I see where the ball is coming, that's the key phrase in that. I don't want my goalies guessing. If you're guessing, there's a problem. If you don't see it, don't move. That's fine, I can live with that. But what I don't want is you guessing. I want you to see the ball. That's the only way, in my opinion, to play goalie effectively. If you're guessing, you're just getting lucky, in my opinion. Again, so it's a pop, explode, recover. For the pop step, again, this might be hard for some of you to see, but I'm in my good athletic position. The pop step's a small step. I'm going basically the length of my foot and at 45 degrees. The way we teach to our guys are engineers, they like angles, numbers, that sort of thing. 45 degrees. And there's a reason we teach 45 degrees. If I step flat, just totally to the side to go get that ball, by the time I get to the ball, if they're shooting for the side pipes, it is at its widest point. I have to travel the farthest to get to it, right? And if I travel straight ahead, now I've eaten up as much of my reaction time as I can. So basically I have the choice between traveling the longest distance, shortening up my time. We're gonna bisect that. Go right down the middle, 45. Again, some people have different philosophies on that. I believe in the 45 because it gets me exploding out towards the ball, and I make that save. I'm still well within the crease. It's pretty easy for me to stay balanced here because I'm not going too far forward. I'm not up on my toes. I'm not just sort of flailing this way. All right, I'm at 45, nice and balanced, relatively easy in terms of staying balanced and over my step, over my feet. Next, we talk about the explosion. And this is the part that people struggle with a lot. This is the part that we have to spend the most time working on because, again, we talk about it as a pull and not a push. And there's a reason for that. So I take my pop step, and now I need to explode to the ball. Okay? Now, if I push off my left foot, what's the natural thing to happen? My body kind of turns, right? As I push off that left foot, and now I'm not square to the shot anymore. So again, like we talked about, we want to be square to the shot. If I push and get turned towards the sideline a little bit, did I just get skinnier? I did, right? Now I'm a smaller target for that shot to hit. And that might be the natural reaction, but that's not what we want as a goalie. So I want to pull. And the way we talk about it is, I want to imagine that I'm trying to spin the earth backwards with this right leg, the pop step. So now I'm pulling myself, and I'm finishing here, still square to the shooter. Okay? Again, I'm still square. Hands, again, they can be anywhere. They don't really matter. It's all about the feet. And if I go at 45, if I'm really exploding, that post is now behind me. I've covered that whole half of the cage. And we're all set there. Okay? The next part is the recover. All right? What happens if I don't make a clean save? We got a problem, right? There's a rebound out in front of the cage. Now, there could be another shot before I'm ready. If I'm flailing at it trying to make a save, or if I go down to my knees, or whatever it may be, am I ready to make another save? No, I'm not. And also, if I'm flailing like that, I'm more likely to give up that rebound that is then going to hurt me. Okay? So we want to recover always back to our base, shoulder width apart, depending on where the ball is. If it was a high shot, we'd like to finish here, sort of with our eyes on it. If it's right here at our body, we're here. Okay? If it's down low, we're down. Nice. I'm not on my knees. I'm still here. Okay? I'm up. I want my chest up, but I want those hands out in front, and I'm making that save here. I'm smothering that bounce shot out in front of my feet. Okay? Because if I smother that bounce shot like that, you get that little bend in the goalie stick, that ball's not going to come out of there if you do it right. Okay? If I try to catch it in the air, I've got to time that pretty well, and people do try to do that. Okay? It doesn't make sense to me, but people do it. And again, we want to be down, almost like you're doing a squat in the weight room. I'm down here, we want to get down. I don't want to be bent over at the waist, because how athletic is this position? Right? I'm not balanced. If I give up a rebound and have to make a save, I got a problem. Again, don't drop. That is a pet peeve of mine, is goalies dropping to their knees. Dropping to their knees. I'm not ready for the next shot, and I'm really kind of just hoping that the ball hits me. okay? Like we said before, the hands and the stick are a luxury, okay? We've got some goalies sometimes they want to be hands first. Okay, the hands should really be the last thing getting there. And I'll tell them all the time, you're a little handsy right now. You're a little handsy, okay? And it means a different thing when I say it than when they hear it late at night, all right? We don't want to be handsy. We want to be with our feet. So now, we popped, we've exploded, we recovered, made the save. Now what do we do? Okay? Goalie stick skills, they're important, okay? Like Coach Mike said, you can get your goalies in your stick work drills once they're warm, once they're ready to go. Put them in those stick work drills. That's fine. We have our guys do that a lot. If we're not doing a goalie-specific drill after the warm-up, we have them jump in that. Communication, all right? This kid you picked to be your goalie, he can't be the quietest kid on your team. That doesn't really work, right? One of the things that annoys me about our goalies in terms of communication is when they're asking who the slide is. That's not your job. You're telling them who's sliding. And if you're wrong on that, that's fine. I'd rather be wrong and definitive about it than asking, okay? Your goalie needs to be in charge at that end of the field because he's the one who's going to get hit with the ball if we do it wrong, right? Your defenseman's not getting plugged with a shot most of the time. It's the goalie, all right? So communication is going to be very important. When we're clearing, all right, we have to get on our goalies quite a lot about this, especially when they're younger. When we're clearing, right, we have an extra guy, right? So we need to make sure we take advantage of that. If I just walk right up the middle, I'm not really taking advantage of it, right? I'm just sort of walking up the middle, and they can still kind of slow play me from either side, right? We took this from Andy Shea, the head coach at Yale. He has what he calls his transition rules. If you have the ball, you need to run at someone and make them cover you. If you are not covered, get covered is his rule, and we use the same thing. That applies to your goalies. If you're not covered with the ball, run at somebody. Make them cover you. And if they don't, keep running until somebody does. Nothing wrong with that. We don't have a problem with our goalies carrying the ball up the field. Again, because they've done their stick skill work. But again, the point of this issue right here, pick a side. All right? Push aside, make them cover you. And so now, if we do it right, we've essentially eliminated the backside. If imagine it's a ride where they're covering this defenseman and this defenseman. I'm going to pick a side and make them play 2-on-1 first. Generally, as Coach Mike said, away from the box if we have that choice. Okay? Another thing we'll do sometimes, a couple years ago we made a little bit of a commitment to trying to play faster and getting out in transition. That's sort of the en vogue thing for a while. Well, how do you do that? How do you get your goalie to be a little more aggressive on his outlet passes? How do you get your middies to break out a little more aggressively? Treat every shot like a save. I don't care if the ball goes in. If the ball goes out of bounds off the end line, pull one out, and we're breaking out. We're going upfield. We're pushing it. Get him to throw those outlet passes. You're getting him more touches, more reps throwing those passes. You get those middies, more touches, more reps, catching those passes, and you're getting him more comfortable in those situations. So, how do we teach this system? First thing every goalie does for us when they get to the field, well, they get dressed. Usually it takes, I don't understand why it takes goalies so long to get dressed. They wear the least equipment, but I swear it takes them the most time. It doesn't make any sense to me. But they walk the line. What that means, that they find any line on the field. Our field has 8 million lines on it because it is lined for every sport imaginable. So you go find a line, pick a 10-yard segment, and you go through your steps to each. We sort of break it down. We break the goal into 6 segments. So high, hit, we call it bounce, but it's just anything really low on either side, okay? And so we work our step to each spot. And just, there's no ball. You're doing this on your own. And then, again, this is the consistency. How am I getting my mind right, ready to have a hard rubber projectile shot at me for 2 hours? How do you get in that headspace? Because that's different from what I just did in school all day. Right? We've got to get that mind right. And that walking the line, that's how we do that. And again, for us, because our guys know our system, the walking the line, that's kind of their time to get their head right. At the younger level, as they're learning it, If I see an issue with how they're walking the line, I'll say something. I'll let them know. But typically with our guys, unless it's glaring or I see it a few times in a row, I don't really say too much during that portion. I let them have that. Once they've walked the line, now we're doing our warm-up. And again, like I said earlier, our warm-up is very structured. We want to do, we do basically, if you look at the goal, we sort of do, Mike's gone, he's done with that. We do we call them arcs. So we have one arc in here, probably at 3 to 5 yards. And we do another one at about 15. And we will go down and back with high shots, down and back with hips, down and back with bounce. And we do the same thing out here. Okay, and I'll mix up which hand I'm using, things like that, just so they get used to seeing the ball come out from both sides. And usually, even for our goalies, the warm-up's not for me. You know, as much as I love to hit corners, I was an attackman, and love to see the net move after I shoot, it's about them, getting them to move properly to the ball. So usually I'll start, you know, in here it's pretty simple because it's inside. I'm not shooting it real hard, but I'm getting them to move. Out here, I'll usually start with sort of just my arms, and then as they get comfortable, I'll get my hips into it, and my legs and everything like that. But again, it's building up, it's getting them comfortable and confident. The next thing, these are sort of our drills we'll do off to the, sort of after we've got the goalies warm, then we have some drills we do. And I sort of create a little matrix for how I want to do this, and I'll get through everything on that matrix before our first game. Okay, so they've gone through, we've worked on every aspect of what we're trying to teach before we get to that first game. So the big thing, hold for 3. So this drill we do to make sure that form is right. So what we'll do, goalies will either have no stick, so with hands behind their back, or they could have their hands, it's okay, it doesn't really matter. But we'll pull the stick out for high and hip. For bounce shots, we'll give them a short stick. Okay, because again, I don't want them bent over trying to catch it with their hands. All right, but what we do, I'm probably right here as far as the front row to me, and the ball's coming out of my hand. Because again, it's not about the speed of this shot, it's about them seeing it and stepping to it and stepping properly. So the hold for 3 portion of it, so let's say we put one, to my hip over here, I will have popped, exploded, recovered, got there, and now I'm holding as the coach is counting 2, 3, and then we reset. Do it again. 2, 3, and so what we're doing is we're getting those guys comfortable with that step, making sure that step is right, and we're getting through it. I will usually do one day, depending on how much time you have, we'll do what I like to do. So I would do one day of, let's say, off stick high, hold for 3s. The next day, stick side high, hold for 3s. Then mix it up, hold for 3s up high, and do the same thing, working my way all the way down. Okay? Then once I get through that, we'll go into what we call rapid fire. Okay, but again, this part is about building up how they're going to step, building that form, getting them to step properly. Next would be rapid fire. So once we're confident in how they're stepping, how they're moving to the ball, I don't have to coach them up every time they step to the ball. Now we're going to get more reps at it. So this is rapid fire. I want them to pop, explode, recover, make the save, get back to the middle as soon as they can. Same thing. And I don't want to do it to the point where they're rushing and they're unbalanced. So every once in a while, as they get back, I'll just hold the ball here in my hand, and what's going to happen, I guarantee it, somebody's going to be there and their stance ready to go, and they rock forward, and they just can't stop because they're not really balanced. All right? And that's my test on how are they leaning? What are they doing? Are they balanced? Are they ready to go? Could they go either direction? I guarantee you're going to get that guy, kind of like that offensive lineman who's a little too excited to go, and he gets that rolling false start. Okay? We don't want that. We want to make sure we're staying, we're nice and balanced, weight sort of on the balls of our feet. We should be able to be in our ready position or our stance all day long. Shouldn't be a problem. So I go through the same progression there of offside, stick side, mix it up. Same thing hips, same thing bounce, all the way through. Next thing we do is what we call stations. And that's work on a couple different things. It can work on our guys' conditioning, works on our stance, and it works on keeping our hands up. Okay? And it also helps with seeing the ball, because part of what we're doing Basically, it's a series of calisthenics that we do that I'll go through in a second, but you're focusing on a small point in the distance as you do it, which helps your eyes and helps you focus on the shots coming in, okay? So part of it, we'll jump rope for 30 seconds, and it's 30 seconds off. We'll shuffle 5 to 10 yards down and back for 30 seconds. Then you get a 30-second rest. We've got one that kind of looks like hopscotch. So you start here, you do a hop to your feet together, hop back out, turn, same thing coming back. You're doing that for 30 seconds. And then we've got a box where you're jumping from, it's about a yard by a yard. You're jumping to each spot on the box all the way around. And again, this isn't so much about how you're going to step to the ball, but it's about keeping your hands up, being in that ready position. It works on just being comfortable there, but also on your eyes and a little bit of conditioning. And then we'll do some with tennis balls, like Lou said. You know, we can do any of these drills with a tennis ball. All right. If your goalie is still not loving even the hole for threes and rapid fires when we're only a few yards apart, if he's not comfortable there, start with tennis balls. There's nothing wrong with that. We do that a lot. But this next one would be something where it comes off the wall, and then the goalie has to find it. And again, that helps with seeing the ball, finding it, and going and getting it. Okay. So coming off the wall, it's something where they have to find it in a little bit of a shorter distance. You know, they're not just watching it come out of the same stick every single time. Just changes things up a little bit for them. All right, and then these, yeah.
What do you guys do with, because a lot of these goalies, especially newer kids, they tend to think they need to have a giant bag, and then they can't really, like, again, as they move up the food chain and get to a higher level, you want your goalie to be able to, you know, maybe throw a fake so they can clear it or whatever, and they can't really do it because they have so much of the bag. So what do you kind of look at? I know it's preferential, you know, it's, each person is different, but.
Well, again, now part of that, I think we would build that culture in that the stick isn't necessary to make the save. I think it's part of it. You know, they think they need that big bag because it helps them catch. You know, the catch is really made by giving some. You know, we didn't get into too much about the hands, but part of our step, like I talked about the finishing position, every time we step, if I'm making a save here, notice I'm simulating that give and I'm looking at the ball right here. So it's all about that give, and I would have them do a lot of drills with a short stick, and that lets them see that the bag isn't necessary. And so then you can sort of graduate them into that goalie stick and get them a little more comfortable there. So then they see that they don't really need the huge bag where they can't throw the ball 5 feet. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Any thoughts on doing the drills with a short stick?
Yeah, we do that a good bit. Again, the goalie stick can become a crutch, so we'll do them with a short stick as well. We either do no stick or short stick. We used to do some with a weighted stick, but we haven't done that in a few years. But yeah, I'm all for doing them with a short stick. My issue with doing them with a short stick, especially at the younger levels, is if you put something high, they're going to really reach for it. And so now I'm teaching bad mechanics with the hands. So especially with younger kids, I focus a lot on the hip shots because that's one that it's all about how they step. If it's high and say I'm trying to put one, you know, here and I miss a little bit and it's up almost to the crossbar, some of these youth kids are going to have to reach way up there for it. And so now I'm going against what I want to teach. So these are the cardinal sins. You know, as the way I approached coaching goalies was similar to what Mike mentioned about how on Saturday or game day, you're not really doing too much coaching. You know, for me, I'm coaching the goalies. When I'm working with a goalie, I'm right here. I can see everything that's happening. The closest I can get on game day is what, like 35, 40 yards away when he's on our end. If he's on the other end, I can't see little missteps and things like that well from that far away. So if you know, these are the things I really look out for during games. And those are the coaching points, like I said. You can give these to your mouthpiece coach, let him watch for these, and so he can then sort of talk to the goalie about what's happening there, let him know if he sees something like that. And that, again, is a constructive thing for him, but you know, it's hard to see little missteps and things like that went that far away. Big one, like I said, you've heard me say it a couple times, dropping to the knees. I can't stand it. It doesn't make any sense to me why I would drop to my knees. I want to be an athlete. On my knees is about the least athletic position I can imagine. That is just terrible to me. It happens all. You'll watch a Division I game, and it happens all the time. I don't care. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Next, dropping your hands. All right. Why would I drop? The first thing I do, why would I drop my hands for a high shot? It just means my ready position isn't my real ready position. So we have a couple goalies who have done this. So, you know, I'm here in my stance, shot comes, my first reaction is here. Well, great, now I have to get back up here. That's not very efficient. And I don't have a lot of time, right? So any wasted motion is a real problem, and dropping hands is probably the most common wasted motion. So you want to keep your hands up, and it should be just one motion to wherever that ball is. Another one for us, we don't give up anything on the inside pipe. We call that a cardinal sin. Again, even if I'm baiting you to shoot to that inside pipe, I should still get there, because I know that's where it's going. All right, so inside pipe, that's another thing we never want to give up. Negative attitude, again, like I said, a goalie's like a cornerback a little bit in football. If he gets down on himself, one goal is he's gonna get scored on 3 times on one shot. Okay, does everybody understand what I mean by that? He can't let that linger. If your goalie's hanging his head down, it's not a good sign. All right, chances are the next shot's going in, unless it hits him. All right, so that you've got to keep the goalie positive. That's one of the things we do a good bit with our goalies. Is when they make a save, we kind of build them up in practice. We actually encourage our goalies a little bit to talk some trash to our shooters, and it's gotten out of hand at times, but that's what makes it fun for them. As long as it stays, respectful, cordial. We let our guys rag each other a little bit about that, and they have a lot of fun with it. They enjoy it, and so last year we ended up having way too many goalies on our roster, but that was what they bonded over. The guys that weren't in that rep, if the goalie made a save, that shooter heard it until he was up again by those guys, and that they built their own little sort of family within our team of their goalies. So again, a positive attitude, be positive with your goalies. Again, wasted motion, already talked about that. Guessing, same thing. If you're guessing where he's shooting, you're not making saves to me, you're just getting lucky. All right, so I don't want you guessing. If you don't see it, don't move. That's my rule.
Hey, EJ.
Yeah.
So with young goalies, one of the biggest issues that I have found, they do a good job. They can save the ball. They're not afraid of it.
Mm-hmm.
They can clear, all that good stuff. But they always seem to not be in the right spot in the goal.
Mm-hmm.
How do you work on that?
So then what I would do is that's something that's very important then during your warm-up, and that's why we go around in the arc. If I get, here they're generally pretty good because they want to hold the pipe. I usually start here just because I'm left-handed. It wants to be up too. So I work this way left-handed. So he's going to be right here on the pipe. But if I get to here and he's not in the right spot, I start to really correct that stuff. That's one of the big things I'm looking at as I make my way around. Okay, and if I notice, with our guys are a little older, so they should know what we're doing. I try to beat them to what they're giving me. If their position is really bad. Because there's no better teacher than having to rake the ball out of the net. Okay? So that's the way I like to do it.
Is there a technique, some guys want to keep the goalies with their eyes forward all the time, instead of teaching them to swing their stick and hit the pipes to balance it out. Some guys keep your hands in the hand position, but to get a quick peek down at your feet and maybe see GLE.
Right.
How do you teach them to learn to be in the correct position?
Again, it comes down to reps. Part of it's our warm-up. But what happens if he shoots while I'm hitting that pipe with my stick, right? Or if I'm looking down here and he shoots. Again, it's got to become where I can feel it peripherally. Okay? So, again, that's part of our warm-ups. We talk about it, getting them in the right spots. But I don't want our guys... We had a freshman last year who actually, his big thing, and I don't quite understand what it was, but he would always tap his own helmet with his stick. And again, he started to get beat a few times because he was tapping his helmet as they were shooting. Again, I don't want any kind of real motion like that. I want them to be comfortable enough working through their arcs that they know. It's a 5-step arc like we talked about. So if I'm here, I know I'm 1 step, okay, 2, and then if I notice a problem as I'm working through those warm-ups, then I'll let them know and we'll get them in the right spot. Those reps are going to come a lot during the warm-ups and those drills in the beginning. That's when that's going to happen. Yeah.
To help the arc, you can also, if you're on grass, you can just take the heel, top center, and dig a little notch.
Yep.
Leave them with the 45s, or if you're on turf, you can take pieces of tape together.
Right.
That helps them stagger arc.
Yep. Have landmarks.
We've done that with hot paint tape on turf.
Yep, that'll work, anything like that.
These.
Yep. So sort of what not to do, if you have a rapid fire shooting drill, like some of the drills Mike was showing, you don't want your goalie in for that. Even if it's tennis balls, it's just not really helping anything. And then, unrealistic situations where a guy is 3 yards away and has all the time in the world to shoot, what's that really helping, right? It doesn't really do anything. Putting in a cold goalie. If he hasn't gotten his warm-up, like we talked about, that confidence comes from consistency. If he's cold, don't put him in there. Give him a little bit of a warm-up first. It may hold up the rest of your practice, but that's better than on, when you guys play another team and your goalie has no confidence, can't make a save, and now the rest of your team's turning against your goalie because they feel like he's letting in shots he shouldn't let in. Okay? So it's better for you guys in the long run. It might throw off your practice plan, but like coaches have said, you've got to be a little bit adaptable. And again, like I said before, don't ignore the goalie after he gets warm. All right? If he makes a save, let him know. Be positive with it. All right? If he does something right, especially when he does things right, let him know. That's the biggest thing. That's what's going to be fun for him.
Yeah. How do you, in the youth level at least, prevent from creating goalie island? Because sometimes there's a lacrosse team and there's a goalie.
Right, a little bit like a kicker.
Yeah,
Right.
and how do you keep them integrated? with the
Right.
rest of the-
Like I said, I would get them in some of the stick work drills that you do, a lot of your passing drills. Get them in, start some of your drills from, say, a clear where they're getting it out to them. Play some 3-on-2s with them, because again, they have to play 3-on-2s in the clearing game. They can be in any drill, really. It's just, you can change a couple different things for them. Maybe they're not gonna split to their offhand very often, but they can roll away from pressure, they can make big turns, they can do any of the stick drills. They can work on ground balls, clamping the ball outside the crease, things like that. So they can be in almost any drill.
I have a question, probably more for the group than for you. Like at a U11 level, we've got a group of kids, no clear goalie. Athletic is best, but those are usually the kids that want to go down and score.
Yeah.
How do you recruit a kid into that position? Because it's the most unforgiving position on the field in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
How do you talk the athletic kid into jumping into that box?
Well, I think, like Lou was saying, you do I would go with, you throw the sticks in, and whatever stick comes out first, that guy's the goalie that day. And just see if anybody starts to develop an affinity for it, would be one of the ways I would approach that.
I mean, like an early practice and then.
Yeah, first practice, go ahead, first guy, whoever picks it up. I would pay attention, personally, I would look at the sticks and I'd rig it. So I know who that most athletic kid is, and the kid who's a little bit fearless and might be that kid, I'm eyeing his stick so I know what it looks like when I reach into that pile, personally. They disagree.
No, I totally.
I mean, does anybody else have
Right.
experience?
I didn't tell them that, but
Building in a goalie position? I mean, that's going to be a question for our team this
We've
year.
asked for volunteers, and if there's no volunteers, you just kind of lay it out for them. Okay, it's like, all right, you're up, and we're going to go through everybody.
Now, you work it through the practice, or do you my older kid played on a team where they divvied up. Neither kid wanted to play goalie, but they were both athletic guys, and they did half a game. Is that the better way to do it?
I think it's better to start it in a practice first, so you can actually stop.
No,
the
the kid. Yeah, it was 2 kids, but we made them divide up because they both wanted to play other positions.
Yeah, and then we split, for U11, split at halftime, we haven't changed
Yeah.
it here. And, again, back to everybody's point, it really doesn't matter, right? It's U11.
Yeah.
Just want the kids out there having fun.
Yeah, but then we want a kid out there who wants to do it though, because if there's kids out there cringing, it's just gonna be awful.
Sometimes, as long as you don't have just one, there's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
They sit together, they don't feel so isolated about it.
Yeah.
And then if you have a couple different ones given in the world at the same time, it becomes a little bit easier to figure out one person about it.
In my experience, if you got a big one to play goalie, it's like begging one to play in the first place, he gonna let us down. At some point, he gonna let us down because he's gonna get disinterested.
Yeah.
So,
We
you
asked
gotta
for,
find one, and it's a little, like DJ said, it's a little different mentality, right?
Yeah. There's a good chance out of 20
There's
kids that
something
none
a
of them
little
were
wrong,
wrong.
there's something a little wrong with the way goalies are wired, so we gotta find.
Yeah, then there's that.
So one of the things Coach Starja, who was here last year, talked about, every practice he talked about sort of, at the youth level, making a big deal about, we couldn't do this without our goalie. So that everyone appreciates that goalie, and that becomes a really important sort of role on the team, because again, you can have a practice without a goalie, but you're not doing a whole lot of interesting stuff, right? You're shooting on an empty net. You're putting a trash can in there, you're flipping over. Those are all better than not playing, but they aren't as good as playing with a goalie, right? So again, make that a big deal. Make being the goalie a badge of honor. It's a lot about how you sell it and present it, I think.
So to kind of combine a couple of the presentation points that you're making and that you made earlier, the first presentation of the day talked about, man, all these kids need to play all over. You don't need to stick with, man, you're a defenseman and that's where you're going to play. And I'm assuming there's a fine line there when it comes to the goalie play.
Yes and no. It depends on what age group we're talking about. You know, anything below
Youth players.
youth, I think anybody can play anywhere. You know, it depends on your program. Does the goalie equipment belong to your program or does it belong to your goalie? You know, how does that work out? That makes some changes to it.
Yeah.
But I think if the program owns the goalie equipment, you can give anybody a shot in there for a practice. They could all try it. You know, if you have a defenseman who's always yelling at the goalie, he's goalie the next practice. Seriously. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
One last question. Do you have any thoughts on goaltenders that drop to their knees?
They're my favorite. Did I make that clear enough? All right, thanks guys. Nico is now going to take the second half and talk about face-offs.
How you guys doing? I'm a little sick, so bear with me. Also, I plan on doing some demonstrations. I'm just going to do that over here at this table. If you can't see, move forward, stand up, whatever. But that's going to be right here. I'm going to go over the importance of face-offs, basic hand and body positions, the basic moves, 3 areas of focus for face-offs, and then go through some drills. So, talking about the importance. You win face-offs, you have ball control. Ball control is possession, which is offense, which is goals, which is wins. Right? Fast breaks are goals, are wins. Momentum, goals, wins. You guys get the picture. The ultimate goal of face-offs is possession. Everybody really wants to focus on the draw, right? But the GB matters just as much. The idea is that if you win the draw, you will have a better chance of winning the GB, right? After the GB, it's important to find green space, right? When you get out of the tussle, find green space, move the ball upfield. And I also wanted to note that players should be in better shape than your average mid, right? They're going to be getting a lot more reps. If you get 3 or 4 quick goals in a row and you only got 1 or 2 guys, it's always out there taking faces, you're going to get tired, so they need to be in great shape. All right, hand and body positions. So for the hands, we have traditional or regular, right? Traditional or regular versus double over motorcycle. Depending where you're from, there's a bunch of different names for these things. So this is how I grew up learning it. If you guys got another name for it, I'd be interested to hear what that is afterwards. Traditional or regular, right? You got 1 hand over, 1 hand under. Okay? And then motorcycle or double over, this way. All right? And then as far as your body, we have standing, which is just an athletic stance with both feet on the ground, hunched over, no weight on your hands. Whereas on a knee, you just have the knee closest to the ball on the ground and the other foot on the ground. Now, these 2 body stances are associated with having more power or being quicker. And I would counter that with, specifically with the standing guy. The standing stance, you can tell I'm a standing guy. If you are standing correctly, those of you familiar with football, like linebacker stance, you should be able to hold yourself there, right? And the idea is that on a knee, you don't have any pressure on your hands, so you can fire them forward quicker. But if you're doing a correct standing stance, you should be able to be all the way over on the ground without having any weight on your hands, right? If you're leaning on the ground, then there's going to be a delay between the whistle and you standing back up to fire your hands forward. Towards this point, players are unique. And no, I do not mean that every kid is special. What I mean is that depending on the player and their body type, their strengths and weaknesses, any combination of these stances will be best for them. So if you have somebody that's not locked into a stance, I encourage you to have them try out all these different combinations. Traditional with standing, on a knee motorcycle, and all the other combinations. combinations, and they're not going to be able to figure out what's best for them in a day. These are things that they have to try all of for 2-3 weeks and then make the decision. All right, question?
We were just talking with the goalie coach said, no wasted motion. And when you're on a knee, you're eventually gonna have to be on the foot.
Right.
So isn't there a wasted motion when you're on the knee?
There, in my opinion, I think there is. Also, the reason you have more favorable power when you're standing is because all your power comes from your legs, right? When you're on a knee and you see guys tie at a face-off, they're both clamping and they tie, what's the first thing they do? They get back up on their feet so they can push. So if you're at the standing stance, you're already able to push, yeah.
Then you're on your toe.
Right. So I'm sure most of you have heard of this rock, paper, scissors of the basic moves. We have our clamp, our rake, and our top. So just to illustrate, the clamp is when you fall directly on top of the ball. The top is when you go over the ball in between the ball and the opponent's stick. And then the rake is actually when you drop the stick flat towards yourself and simultaneously shoot the ball out the side or the front. So you can see this rock, paper, scissors where if one person's clamping and the other person gets their stick in between the opponent's stick and the ball, the top will win. Whereas if somebody's going to go to top the ball and the guy rakes it, it's going to push right under the other stick. And if somebody goes to clamp and the other person rakes, they're going to push it directly into the clamp. Now this applies when the reaction time, strength, and hand speed of both individuals are the same, right? That's when this should theoretically apply. Quick story, I was out in Colorado one time, and I put everything I had into a clamp, and this other guy goes to rake, and clamp should beat rake, right? Well, to my surprise, my feet came off the ground, and he curled me. I was 190 pounds, and he curled me off the ground, so my eyes got this big around. Point of the story is, this is not always true. I'm saying all other things equal, this is how it should work out. But I'm sure with youth, and at the youth level, and even at the college and pro level, what you guys are used to seeing is this. Good. Clamp, 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 clamp. Rock, 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 rock. Everybody likes to clamp, right? The idea is if we're both clamping, the person who's faster, stronger, and has a better reaction time is going to win. Now, nobody goes out there thinking, I'm slower, weaker, and not as quick as the other guy, so I'm going to clamp because I'm quicker, right? So everybody goes out and clamps. And somebody's got to win, and obviously at the more advanced levels, there's variations for each of these moves. So you have your power clamp, quick clamp down the line, pinch pop, etc. I'm not going to get into all those details, but feel free to ask me afterwards if you'd like. So the three things to focus on for developing face-off skills are technique, hand speed, and reaction time. So all of our drills are going to be focused on isolating or improving one or more of these things. If you don't have a face-off MIDI already committed and you're looking for somebody to face off, some things you want to look for. Somebody who's coachable, right? There's a lot of technique in facing off. So if you have a kid who it takes 9 times before he listens and changes, it's not gonna work out great. So you want somebody that's coachable, you want somebody that's athletic, and like I said, it's not just the draw that matters, it's the GBs. So this guy should be very capable at GBs. All right, getting into some drills. These are things I like to do pretty much at the beginning of every practice. So chops, there's an argument that all of these drills could be applied to all three of the things to focus on, but I just sort of highlighted the primary focus for these drills. So chops is for hand speed. You have the ball, the player will be in the stance, and the idea is to come up as close to, without touching the ball as possible, and touch down on the opposite side of the ball, and then come back and go as fast as you can. Those are going to be 15 to 30 second reps. Halfway through, I like to tell them to go faster, and they always go faster, so they could probably go faster than they are. Keep that in mind. The next is handball. One problem with the chops drill is a lot of people will sort of get in the zone, or whatever you want to call it, and they're going as fast as they can. They're going to close their eyes. right? So it's important to keep focus on the ball throughout the whole face-off. So handball sort of works on that. It's 3 steps, so each time you do it is going to be different. You'll have a line in front of you, right? You grab the ball, place it on the line, slap off the line. Grab the ball, place it off the line, slap the line. As fast as you can, right? So that requires that they focus on the ball and look at precisely exactly what they're doing while still developing the hand speed. And as for reaction time, we do clamper top whistles. So I have them go down and get in their stance. It'll just be a whistle repeatedly. So we'll have a whistle, they'll clamp or top, and then come back up into their stance, ready to go again. And so this is working on reaction time. You want to change up your cadence and do this 20, 30 reps. Give them a break, do the same thing with tops. And then finally, the final major warm-up that I like to do is just a full face-off to the ground ball. This obviously works on reaction time and technique. All these things can be worked on at home and should be done at home with a partner if possible, but there's ways to do it on your own as well. So the main thing for, especially the youth level, is teaching technique. So there's major steps to each of the 3, at the core of each of the 3 face-offs. So this is going to be one of the things I'm going to illustrate. It actually requires footwork, so I'm going to be doing it over here. Stand up if you need to.
You do it in the line right here, in the middle.
You come in the middle.
Right here in the line, in the walkway, so everybody can see.
All right, that'll work.
The ball's gonna roll down.
That's all right.
Steve's got good hands.
So there's 5 major steps, and I say you want to do this step by step with increasing pace. What I mean by that is down, set, you say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? So the first step is just clamping the ball, right? Second step is for leverage. You want to push your stick forward. Okay? That'll help the head of your stick slide under the head of the opponent's stick. Okay? Third step is stepping forward with your left foot. Right? 4 is just pitching it out, 5 is picking it up. Does that make sense? So the idea is you do this very slowly so that these players understand all the steps, and then as it progresses, you go faster and faster and faster until it becomes one fluid motion that's like second nature to them. I wrote that most face-offs are between a third of a second if there's a direct winner, or a second and a half if there's a bit of a fight. Not a whole lot of time to think. This really does need to be second nature. Some things you want to look for this is decisive movements for each 5 of these steps. There is a very common bad habit, especially in youth. I think this took me a year to get over when I was young, and that's lifting up their hand. So a lot of times when they push it forward, they're going to pull the stick up like this, completely exposes the ball, completely loses ball control, right? And the other thing is when they go to actually pitch the stick or pitch the ball out, they'll sort of relax and stand up, right? So you want to make sure you're on top of the ball with ball control throughout the entire face-off. These are the things you really want to look for. Go ahead. Another thing, just to key down on pitching, I'll just move through this quickly, but the ideal spot is 3 to 5 yards to the back left, 45 degrees. Set up a simple cone there, have them go in either clamp or top and freeze, and then when you blow the whistle a second time, they have to locate the cone and pitch it out. Because you don't want anybody, flinging the ball out of bounds or pitching it half an inch behind them, and there's no advantage there. Go ahead, Nick. This next drill is called 50-50, so this is to simulate if both players have the exact same reaction time, hand speed, and strength, and they both clamp and meet in the middle. And that sounds like an unlikely scenario, but that is probably half of all face-offs, right? So we have both players start with their sticks halfway over the ball and angled, right? This is as if they both clamp and meet in the middle, and they both have an equal advantage. That's why we call it 50-50. And essentially blow the whistle, and they fight it out. This is simulating that second half of the face-off, if and when there's a tie, which there often is. Here you want to look for players angling for leverage, and that means both pushing the stick forward. What you don't want to see, guys spinning, right? So what we do instead, I don't know what it's called, we call it the wiggle. You push forward, you gain leverage, and then when you pull back, your head is going to push his head off the ball. So you do that 3 or 4 times, you're going to be on top of the ball more often than not. Obviously, head-to-head, this is where everything comes together. Personally, I had to do this hundreds of times at practice, so it can get pretty mundane. Best way to keep you guys interested is make it a competition. I find running motivates most players, but we're going to do stuff like best 3 out of 5, and whoever wins that gets a sticker, whatever. I should go back 1 sec. Also, when you're going through this, you're doing 10s and 10s and 10s of reps. Guys are going to get really tired. This is exhaustive. So when they are getting tired, a good exercise is to have them stop and explain to you why one person won or lost, so that you know that they're understanding all the technique that is going into this. And if they say something wrong, you can correct them. And that'll just get them thinking, so that when they go back into the next phase, they can correct their mistakes and improve their technique. Good. Again, because 90% of face-offs are clamp versus clamp, I have this drill called situations. So it's the same thing as head-to-head, but you're telling them which move to do. You can do it either whispering to all them individually or say it out loud, right? So somebody's supposed to win in this situation, assuming all skills are equal. This is actually a great strategy for coaches to identify a starter. So if you have somebody who's doing a losing move and keeps beating the other guy, there's a clear athletic advantage there. And then again, a lot of teams depend on face-offs to have a successful push forward and a fast break. It can be a momentum changer, game changer, but nobody ever practices that full sequence. They practice fast breaks, they practice face-offs, they never time together, and it actually can be very different, especially when you pitch the ball 10 yards, you got guys closing in on you, it's a little bit tighter. It needs its own work, and it definitely does. Yeah, and I'll just close up. We didn't talk about wing play today, but essentially the guys who are on the wings just running in and getting the GBs. Youth level, just play your fastest, hardworking GB stars. Never argue with refs about face-offs. In my experience, they can't have direct impact and they will get away with it. But you can have a major advantage by studying refs and opponents if game table or local games are occurring and that's available to you. The last thing I want to mention, and this is a really important takeaway, is ball placement scenario. So we have a ref who comes down, instead of putting the ball directly in the middle, he'll put it closer to one person's stick or the other, right? And what happens here is it's psychological. There's a lot of ego that goes into this too, right? So more often than not, I found in my own experience and through coaching, the guy who has the ball right next to his stick, almost in his stick, almost always loses. And that's because he's thinking, oh, the ball's right there. All I gotta do is fall on it, right? And the opponent is thinking, the ball's way over there, now I have to overcompensate and really go farther and harder and faster. So the guy who's farther away from the ball actually ends up winning in these situations. And the point I wanted to make is to explain to the youth, this is how it was explained to me and really clicked for me, is aiming at the ball as if it's a foot away from where it actually is and that it's actually underground. Right? So you want to be hitting it hard forward and hard down. And that's what's going to give you the advantage over your opponent when both sticks are crashing in. Open it up to questions. Yeah?
So if you have an opponent that's continually kicking your butt on face-offs, do you have a particular move that you kind of use, just at least just to slow them down or something that's going to delay them a little bit so you can continue fast breaks going against them? Do you have any strategy for that?
Absolutely. Is this, in this case, are they always fast breaking? Right, so traditionally when you want to get that step with the left foot to gain leverage, here you're going to want to step with your right foot to block the fast break. Okay? And the other thing you can do, if you know his momentum is going this way for the fast break, instead of clamping just flat, you can clamp what we call down the line, and you'll essentially be able to use some of his momentum to get the ball into your stick. So those are sort of two strategies to counter that.
That's one of the advantages of having a stand-up stance. If you are losing, at least you're facing where you can still get on defense. If you're on one knee, it's real difficult. So if you're winning them, you're winning in front of you. And if you happen to be losing, at least you're on your feet. At least possibly, to Coach's point, make it a 50-50 ground ball and maybe get the ball.
Right. Actually learned that lesson the hard way, I think U15. I was going against a guy, and he would win it straight away and just sit on it and wait for me, and I would fight and fight until I was flat on the ground with everything I put into it. And at that point, when I was flat on the ground, then he would pop and run away, 10 yards on me. So.
We had a team, we won 3 or 4 face-offs in a row, and they changed their face-off guy to their best defensive player. And they got possession in 3 out of the next 5. Because they essentially conceded, you're gonna win the face-off, but you're not getting out of the circle. And it was every time, and that's one way to combat that. That was a hard lesson to learn.
Coach, when you're doing your drills individually and together with your guys, your face-off guys, do you make, like, they don't win the face-off until they pick up the ground ball? Because a lot of kids will win the face-off and then they go pick it up with one hand, and they come back to the drill and they fake it to make it, I guess.
Yeah. Ideally, I don't give them credit unless they get it in the box, right? Because that's the full face-off, in my opinion, is from whistle to having the ball in your possession on the offensive side. Everything in the middle is the face-off. So even in drills individually with the team, everything, that is a win, is that full start to finish.
To answer your question, when you're getting beat a lot, that's the reason Nico's with us now. Billy did a good job of that to us last year, dominating some face-offs with the long pole. So Nico's joined our staff this year from Florida State. He's up here getting a PhD in something I can't even name. So we're lucky to have him join us here, up here at Tech. So, any questions for these guys? You're welcome. Talk to them offline. I know Mike has emails. I'll send it out if you want to get email addresses for either EJ or Nico.
Yeah.
And being here at Tech, we've always told people we're open anytime. If you ever want to email, come to a practice. We're not experts by any means. I think we do a pretty good job with what we have and how we get about it. You're always welcome to come attend the practice and be alongside us and see what we talk about when we're doing things. If you're ever in the Atlanta area and want to come down, we just practice over the turf right by the Aquatic Center, and we're happy to host anytime you're around. As a side part of this, you've seen the table out front. Besides coaching here, I also am the rep for Universal Lacrosse. I know a lot of people have relationships with different groups, so if you ever need help with anything, whether it be something uniform, name brand, goals, balls, whatever you may need, feel free to grab my card and give me a shout. We'd be happy to work with you on any of your needs you have, team stores, whatever it may be. We can do all of it for you. So appreciate you guys being here at Tech. I know we're going to take a little break for the next presenter.
Does anybody object if we don't take a break and just keep going? We're good?
Keep going. Take breaks if you're welcome.
You guys take two.
Sorry, before you take a quick break, I know we have a drawing, right? Dave Chain here with
We have a winner right here for the Lawyer Warp Evo Stick. Some of you guys dropped off your contact information. I appreciate that.
It's like the same number of things as our church today.
And the winner is Ken Lopnick.
Hey, all right.
Gary from Wheeler. There you go.
We got 2 tickets that somebody was nice enough to give us for the Swarm game tonight.
Do that. Thanks, sir.
Matt Harris, Hillgrove.
We're going to keep going. I guess you guys are all leaving? Okay, we're going to keep going. Okay. All right, for all you guys still here,
How are you?
Billy O'Hare, never met him before, today. Here's the, what's that? Huh? Oh, where's the other computer?
It's mine.
Oh, shit.
Do you need it?
I don't know how else to get,
With us the desktop. Do you have the flash drive, Billy?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, that's all about you. Nice to meet you. Oh, there it is.
Glad we got that before you. Y'all can take a break because we have a technical
Operator error.
5 minutes, 5 minutes. Billy, your job is in 5 minutes to get to the butts back in your seats.
That's not me.
Keep it going. That's not a good look. That's why. Oh, no. There you go. There you go. All right. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Thanks for coming down. Anytime. No, just kidding. That's all right.
Too much.
All right, Coach Lou.
Yeah, I'll see you soon.
All right. Say hello to Mary.
I will.
See you, Lou.
You want me to leave these for you guys?
Sure. So, what are you gonna do? You see Scott here yet?
I haven't seen him yet, no.
Okay. You know what? This happens every year. You speak last.
Is he the last one?
Yeah, but it always happens that drift off, no matter who's speaking. And yeah, he's like the one guy you like, maybe should be here and listen
We should have made
to.
it first.
Huh?
We should have made it.
No, he's asked to speak last.
So, and by the way, I'm so.
So you have a